Welcome back. Now, with the results of the United States election, where former President Donald Trump achieved a significant win, has caused considerable volatility in the South African rand, which lost up to 2.5% of its worth, now trading at 17.82 cents. Now, with the return of Donald Trump to the White House, it adds a further layer of uncertainty for developing countries, as the Republican contender promised to implement 60% tariff on all imports from China during the election. Joining us with an insight of how this will impact the economy as we enter a new era of uncertainty, we have invited economist Milner Siboleka to enlighten us in terms of these developments. Good morning, sir, and welcome to GMN.
Good morning. Greetings to you and your viewers.
Okay. Trump has won. What does this mean for the world economy, and specifically the Namibian economy, by large extension also being affected because of the South African economy?
Well, what we know about Trump through the history of his previous administration and also what he has promised to do is that Trump is pro-expansionary policy. You know, in terms of his policy stance, he favors expansionary policies. So what does that mean? If you have economic policies that are expansionary, it means that, you know, he favors policies that spur economic growth. These policies come in the form of, you know, lowering taxes. They come in the form of, you know, increasing government spending. And what we are likely going to see is a continuation of that. If I may just have to sum, you know, the policy stance of, you know, President Donald Trump in an adjective, I would say that, you know, he likes a very strong economy that's growing, no matter what the cost. But however, what we are likely going to see from that, given the current fundamentals, is that it will going to come at a cost. It will going to come at a cost of a slowdown in the global economy because of the inward-looking policies. It's going to come at a cost of inflation. You know, with these policies, you know, where we are now in terms of, you know, monetary policy, if we try to, you know, have excessive expansionary policies, they will be counterproductive to the efforts of reducing inflation. And for Namibia and the global economy, that will not bode well. You know, slow growth, we know that countries are just recovering, and also the inflation profile will not work for countries like Namibia.
So we could possibly be seeing another economic slowdown for Namibia?
Precisely.
Okay. Now, in terms of his victory with the global trade, you have also mentioned a point, the fact that we are reminded of the trade war that China and the United States had in the past, specifically when it comes to the steel industry, this, you know, imports and tariffs being added on. Are we likely to see that? Because I know the Chinese have said that, you know, they are looking for a productive mutual relationships, but we know the stance between China and Trump in his previous administration. It is a continuation that we are likely to see?
My best guess is that we are likely going to see that policy position. I do not see, you know, envision any, you know, retreat from that policy position. Why am I saying so? For three reasons. First, when we look at his previous administration, he had, you know, fairly, you know, a good, you know, rating of, you know, approvals, meaning that he's someone who actually implements what he promises. That's one angle of it. Secondly, you know, over time, and he have been a president, he have gained considerable amount of experience, and that will help him to do it even much better. And let's not forget the fact that his party have also gained control over the Senate and also the House of Representatives. So that will complement on his executive powers. And lastly, when we look at the similar, you know, trends when he implemented the same policies in his previous administration, what was expected, you know, did not happen the way it, you know, it's panned out. So the economy was thriving when he left power. So we are likely going to see a continuation of those policies.
Saying that is a continuation of the previous administration's efforts, that is the Barack Obama administration.
Yes, but however, the fundamentals were very much different by then. The fundamentals this time around are very much different. But at that time when Barack Obama was a president, he had to pursue, expansionary policies. But they were pursued with consideration of the fundamentals and the effect they have on the economy. But what we are seeing with Trump is, he favors an expansionary policy that spurs economic growth at, no matter what the cost comes
regardless
with,
of the cost.
that growth. Yes, thank you.
Talking about his approach of protectionism, or, protecting especially and worried about the American economy and saying putting America first, will this not cripple, demand for commodities, especially countries like Namibia, who are also exporting in raw form, a country like South Africa that is also exporting some of this type of products under the AGOA agreement? Will we not see the possibility of it impacting goods like platinum and gold, and this could possibly be tightening U.S. policy under Trump administration and possibly impact the fiscus of South Africa and to a large extent also impact the fiscus of Namibia?
To a larger extent, it will. Why am I saying so? The U.S. economy is the largest economy. So it accounts for 22% of, the global GDP. You can see that it's too much to be ignored. So it has a very fair share in the demand for commodities globally. And we know that Namibia is a net exporter, including many Southern African countries. And what that means is with low demand, it will mean that, it will translate into, lower, prices. It will also translate into, a reduced export earnings, which are very important for Namibia. And remember, where we are now, we are talking of, the oil and gas industry that's in the mining sector, embedded in the mining sector. So, and this is the anchor sector that drives economic growth for Namibia, and we are likely going to see, that feeding through, in economic activities in Namibia.
One possible negative impact being seen with Donald Trump, besides the possibility of saying putting America first, is the issue of his willingness and ability to withdraw from multilateral organizations such as the UN on sustainable development. We know institutions like the Environmental Investment Fund of Namibia has sourced more than 700 million through the Green Climate Fund. Does SADC possibility seem losing if Donald Trump continues to pursue that route?
Let's just build the context. When we talk of, withdrawing from these institutions or aid, what do we mean? We mean, withdrawing on the very important commitments, for example, climate change, that have proved that if anything, where we are now, they need concerted efforts, more so especially by the world-developed countries. Secondly, we mean of, withdrawing on commitments of public health, a support that they provide through the umbrella of PEPFAR in countries such as Namibia and less developed countries. We also mean, the support that comes to strengthen, multilateral institutions that play a very crucial role, like the United Nations. So what we have seen over the past is that the U.S. have really played a very crucial role in these, endeavors, and withdrawing these will really have a very much tremendous effect on the world order.
So their absence will definitively shake up the economy.
Precisely.
Now, finally, considering that the U.S. dollar remains a key factor in terms of global inflation and monetary policies decisions, it is the world currency, as we like to call it, and these policies that we foresee Donald Trump implementing or continuing from his earlier term in terms of his administration, will this mean that central banks will start maybe increasing interest rates than much we expected? Because I know, for instance, the repo rate has gone down on 2 occasions in Namibia. We saw the price of gas, oil, petrol, for instance, going down. Does it mean now we have to revisit this policy stance that we've been making over the last couple of 6 months?
Okay, yeah, so where we are, like just last night, the Fed, the Reserve Bank in America, have just cut, they've just cut the interest rate for the first time, by 25 basis points, meaning that, we are in a synchronized, easing cycle. All central banks, South Africa, we have seen, with the exception of Botswana, we know the fundamentals are totally different in the countries that are on the extreme, that are in conflicts. But however, all in all, what we have gotten just 2 weeks ago from the IMF is that, inflation have really eased. But however, there are still risks that are still there on the horizon. And what we are likely going to see from the Trump administration with the thriving economic growth, the economy that's growing, at this moment when, we are still grappling with inflation, and his policies that seems to favor a strong US dollar, what they are going to likely to do, for the global economy, we are likely going to see, inflation fitting into the picture. So the central bank will not just sit idle. That's their key mandate. We are likely going to see the central bank interpreting each and every detail and what it means for economic policies. But what I would, foresee here is a situation whereby central bank, prematurely or before expected start to, to lower, their easing stance.
Okay, that will definitely promises to be an interesting one. We hope to have more conversations after Donald Trump is sworn in, and we'll see what his first policy stance, especially when it will come to the economy, to be about. But thank you very much for making time to speak to us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Now, that was the economist Milner Siboleka talking to us